Hello dear viewers, and welcome back to this dwarven hold of our ancestors as we talk about another wonderful video game. Today we will talk about a series dear to my heart. Today we'll be talking about the game The Settlers 2. The Settlers is a series of video games originating all the way back to the Amiga. The first in the series, The Settlers, was released here in the UK in November 1993. Before we crack on as usual, could I please request that if you fancy it, I would be most joyous should you wish to like the video, subscribe and perhaps leave a comment on your memories playing the Settlers series. As it is Christmas and you might be looking for a nice book to read, perhaps check out my first book on Amazon, Grim Journey. It's a story of a man trying to understand his mental illness in a fantasy world with trolls and elves and dwarves of course. I remember seeing the original Settlers in an Amiga magazine that came along with a demo of the game itself. It was like nothing I'd seen before. All these little men walking about on roads, carrying things and building women frames for buildings. I was enticed and intrigued and I wanted to know more. I pulled out the disc from the front of the glossy mag and launched it into my Amiga. After playing it for hours and hours, I resolved to purchase a full copy, and once we did so, the wonderful world of the Settlers was available to me in its entirety. The first thing you are greeted upon loading the first Settlers game is the charming animation of a knight on his horse travelling through a medieval village. The quaint characters and the warm colour palette filled you with a sense of calm and contentment. This was going to be a nice game to play. Upon hearing the music for this playthrough, I was transported back to my youth, full of wonder about the game I was about to play. Graphically, it is in a roughly isometric view, using two-dimensional graphics and sprites. There is lots of colour here, full of warmth and quirkiness. The buildings all look charming to behold, and the sprites of the various townfolks are fun little people performing all the tasks afforded to them. The music in the first game is very medieval in its tone, sticking in your mind some fun melodies. It reminds me a lot of certain dungeon synth albums which I enjoy muchly. The first game was good fun for anyone that enjoys economy and town simulation games, and even now, 25 plus years later, it still holds its own as a quality title. Yes, some of the UI is dated and there are features missing you would expect in a modern title, but this first Settlers holds a special place in my heart, and if you tried it then it might find one in yours too. The Settlers 2, as you might reckon dear viewers, is the direct sequel to the first game, and the one I will be mostly talking about today. It was released for DOS in the UK in August 1996. It builds on the foundations laid in the first game, adding more fun and jolliness to proceedings. Settlers 2 has a wonderful start menu. You can do the Roman campaign, do the world campaign, resume the last game, load one if you fancy, you can play unlimited, look at the options which are usually optional, play the intro again, look at some credits, and of course you can quit the program. The graphical style is very similar to the first, still with that two-dimensional graphics and wonderful sprites, but with more detail and finery. Unlike the first game though, the factions you take control of have much more historical leanings towards factual civilizations, like the Romans and the Vikings. Okay, that's nice. Well, what is this game? What do you do? Well, in its simplest terms, the Settlers 2 and its predecessor is something along the lines of a settlement simulation mixed with some real-time strategy. You're charged with building up a settlement set in the Middle Ages type setting. This entails building buildings and roads and using the various goods and materials available to build a working settlement capable of sustaining all the goings on, ultimately leading to the domination of any other factions on the map. In order to achieve victory on a map or level, you must exploit the natural materials in the world and your town building know-how to build a functioning settlement capable of sustaining the various tradesmen and activities found within. You begin with a castle surrounded by a border in your faction's colour. This acts as a base of operations and storage for all the tools and workers. The border designates the territory you currently control and where you can place buildings. From here, you can begin laying out the initial structures and tradesmen you will need to build up the rest of your town. To do this, you move your cursor around the screen or press space to show where you can build something. All pieces of territory are not equal, however, with different spots capable of having different types of structure constructed upon them. Basically, the more flat and clear an area is, the more complex the building type can be. Anywhere you see a simple hut icon allows you to build basic buildings such as the woodcutter, quarryman, forester, etc. The middle-sized building is capable of, you guess it, supporting medium-sized buildings, such as watchtowers, bakeries and armories. The castle icon denotes the largest type of building that can be constructed, which includes the granary farm, pig farm and fortress. Each larger type of ground is capable of having the previous tier of buildings placed upon them. So what do you actually need to build? Usually when I start, I make sure I have wood and stone gathering in place. These are the fundamental building materials you need to build any structure, so making sure you have a good supply is vital. To get wood usable for construction, you must build a woodcutter near some trees. Then you need to build a sawmill that can process the logs into boards of wood. But, dear viewers, we need a steady supply of wood, and the woodcutters will soon enough run out of trees to cut. And this is why we place foresters too, who will plant trees enough for the woodcutter to continue about his business. If you build quarry buildings in the vicinity of stone, then the quarryman will go out and gather stone for you, ready to use. Sadly, stone is not renewable, so once it's gone, you need to find more on the map or make use of some stone mines. For those buildings to be completed, you must build a road system that connects all of them to your HQ or storehouse that you might have. This is done by simply building roads between them and then connecting them up to your HQ. You must take care to keep roads as short as possible and on flatter ground as possible, as this will affect the movement of transported goods. Once you have your plots connected up, the workers and materials will begin moving out from your HQ. Excavators will move out to any plot of land needing some dig work done before construction, followed by builders who will build the actual building. For said builder to do his job, of course, he will need those raw materials I talked about. These will be taken from the HQ or storehouse and carried by a carrier that mans every road between two flags in your kingdom. The materials will make their way there as needed, and the builder can get on well with building. I always thought it was really cool how the builders actually constructed each structure. Unlike, say, Command & Conquer, the buildings are not constructed as soon as you place them, but rather they are slowly constructed over time. First with the wooden frame being built, and then the main section of the building built line by line of pixels. It was nice to set a group of plots, connect them up with roads, and then sit back as your little people move about, transporting goods and erecting all the buildings you had placed. Besides wood and stone, there are numerous other supply chains for different goods and services. In order to recruit soldiers, for example, you need weapons. Weapons are created in the armory, and that requires steel and coal. Steel is created by the smelter, who needs iron ore and coal from mines. In order to mine a mighty mine, the miners need to be fed. That food needs to come from some source or another, like fish from fishermen, bread or meat that each have their own chain of goods, and tradesmen to manufacture. So as you can see, the game has lots of little chains that you must create in order to have a functioning society. It is quite rewarding to watch all you have set up play out before you and work as you intended. Besides the main building features is the military aspect of Settlers. It is not some great intricate endeavour full of unit types and abilities, but still quite tactical and rewarding. In order to defeat other factions on the map, you must send your troops into their territory and do battle with their soldiers before taking over a specific military building you had targeted. Your troops, once you've commanded them to do so, will automatically move to your target enemy barracks or watchtower or fortress, or what have you, and duke it out with the soldiers stationed there. If your soldiers manage to kill them all, then your attacking soldiers will claim the building for your side. When claiming other factions' military outposts, the border of your territory will move up to encase your newly conquered land. Any buildings between your initial boundary and that of the newly acquired building will be set aflame and destroyed. It is this reason why you should plan carefully where you will place structures and how they will be protected. You don't want valuable buildings destroyed by a rampaging enemy. Besides the military and the various chains of productivity, the player can also construct ships at a shipyard which can be stocked up at a harbour. You can then set out your vessel onto the sea to find new lands for your burgeoning civilization. The Settlers 2 has various modes in which you can participate in. There is the main campaign mode, which follows the main story of the Roman-type fellows becoming shipwrecked in a strange land. Besides this are campaigns for other races, along with the unlimited mode, which is what I mostly play. You can set out how many players and computer-controlled opponents you wish to play along with, and starting resources and the map for the encounter. You must duke it out with your opponents to win the day. So yes, I do like this game a lot. Settlers 1 and 2 both hold a special place in my heart, as I have already said. I have put many hours into them over the years. Suffering from sadness as I do, it can help greatly just disappearing into another world and immersing yourself in your favourite games. The Settlers can certainly fill that spot. And there are more games in the series, adding more complexity and combat options which can be fun, with the later releases perhaps losing some of their way. The Settlers 2 is that special kind of thing that was wonderfully crafted, and I guess that is why it received a special 10-year anniversary edition years ago. If you enjoy simulation games, town building and or strategy, then The Settlers 2 is definitely worth checking out. It is a quaint and wonderful game you can get a lot of enjoyment from, and that is what we want, right? Something to help us through the times we are in. Video games bring enjoyment and hope to some of us and can help us steer our way through the rapids of hopelessness. Settlers 2 is available on Good Old Games, which has a sale on at the moment, along with several other in the series. The first Settlers is available on Ubisoft Connect for a few quid, which is pretty sweet. You don't have to go looking for an Amiga and some discs. Check it out for Christmas, dear viewers. And there we have it, dear viewers, another video done. I hope you like it, and I hope you're doing okay wherever you are. If this is the last video before Christmas, I wish you a good time of merriment and joy, and a happy new year. Thank you, dear viewers, and see you next time.